This car here is so important for the Volkswagen brand, for the whole future of small cars and for the German automotive industry, because this here is the all-new Volkswagen Polo as the ID.Polo, the electric version.
I could do this all day, and I mean, I can't say that for many other electric vehicles. This is just insane.
Soon going to tell you what happens to the combustion engine version. And this one here is a competitor to the Renault R5. At the same time, they want to offer dimensions of a combustion Polo, but with a driving behavior of a Volkswagen Golf. And this one will come as the ID.Polo, with the Cupra Raval as the brother, and then also in the SUV version, the ID. Cross, recently shown to you. This one will be built together with the Skoda Epic, also the electric SUV. And this one will introduce an all-new Volkswagen interior, going back to the roots, core Volkswagen values, physical dials and so on. So there are so many stories in one vehicle, and with this car here now, they want to convince you that Volkswagen is back, that they have listened to the customer. And we're going to find out today with the first exclusive drive, some interior details and the first and the most important facts and figures of the new Volkswagen Polo, the electric, the ID.Polo as they will call it now. They thought about naming it ID.2 first, now they go back to the naming of ID.Polo. So everything you need to know about this one, and do small cars have a future? With Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. In the front, this is still a camouflage paint. Yeah, but they're thinking of bringing that one to the market, actually. That's a very funny story. And then here, illuminated Volkswagen logo right here. We cannot see everything from the exterior yet, but I activate the turning indicators that you can see that this on top, oh, they are also interested in that one. The insects, and here, there's like the indicator or the daytime running light, optional matrix LED for the main headlamp unit. And this is indeed classic Polo dimension with 4 meters and 5 or 160 inches. But you can see here quite a wide wheelbase for a small car. Wheels from 17 to 19 inch. These are the biggest 19-inch wheels indeed. So we're also going to find out about the comfort today, because today the first exclusive drive. Very short front hood here. But then they move away from the so far ID model design. This one is going back to, let's say, classic combustion engine design, and not, oh, this car needs to look like an electric vehicle. People don't want that. They just want a good, solid design, and that's where they're going back to. The doors, by the way, here with classic door handles on the exterior. That's very important to me. It's also a safer way to do it and a simple way, and it's not bad really for aerodynamics. And the rear doors are attached right here, so then you can open them like this. That's kind of like hidden, but it is definitely always a 5-door model. It is always front-wheel drive. That's also very important. Here, by the way, the rear turning indicators are visible right here. And in the rear, we can already see the design here of the tail lamps. They have this squircle design, so to speak. And also the Volkswagen logo will be illuminated in red. A little bit dusty here already. The rear axle, by the way, is torsion beam. So yes, that's less sophisticated from dampening comfort if we compare it to Multilink. However, we're soon going to drive it here for you today. The torsion beam, however, has an advantage. That one will enable a lot of space right here on the interior, and I'll soon show you in the trunk what that means. It will be spectacular, I can promise. And now about the technology. First of all, a fixed suspension as base. Later we expect a sport suspension in the R-Line, for example, and you will also optionally get a DCC, adaptive suspension. That one exclusively to the GTI model, which will also look very fancy. We already have some shots of the concept there for you. So that will be very, very exciting. Horsepower figures from 116 to 226 horsepower for the GTI. This one we will drive today is 211 horsepower, so not the GTI, but then still the strongest versions. And the strongest versions will be connected to the bigger battery. The bigger battery is 52 kilowatt hours net. NMC, there's also a smaller battery, 37 kilowatt hours net. That one is LFP, the smaller one. Most will, however, choose the bigger battery. The WLTP driving range figure is 450 kilometers. That is really if you drive city only. But if you're also going to use the motorway and so on, the range figure, of course, will be way lower. Then I rather expect something, maybe 280 kilometers, 180 miles, something like that in that region approximately. The charging port is on the front passenger side right here. Interesting placement. 11 kilowatt AC, and for the big battery 130 kilowatt DC charging, and it takes then 23 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge to charge the bigger battery, the 52 kilowatt hour battery. We have all data and figures and so on also always in a separate data comment and in the video description. Let's take a look under the hood. Is there a frunk or not? No, there is no frunk. But there is actually a reason for it. First of all, it's a small car. They had to put a lot of tech in here. This is, for example, the compressor for the AC. And they put it here intentionally that they can have this dampened housing, so to speak. You can see here, I can shake it because it is, housed in a way that it does not create any vibrations for the interior, and it's more silent. And they have also here this cover from the inside, like with the combustion engine, that everything is as silent as possible. The ID Cross, that one will have, like the a little bit bigger SUV brother, that one will have a frunk then in this platform. And what about the combustion engine VW Polo? It will still be available parallel. However, at least it's the status today, there will now be more further investments in the combustion engine Polo, so it will still be available for purchase, yes, but the investment will all go into the electric platform. There will not be a new generation combustion engine VW Polo. At least that's what they say today. But as long as people still buy the combustion engine Polo, it will also be available. And also looking forward to how it is then in driving when we compare the combustion engine to the electric one. And now a first interior sneak peek here of the new Polo, the ID.Polo. First of all, what you can see, we cannot show you like everything in the front, but we already see that the steering wheel has a flat top and a flat bottom, and it's actually quite large considering. In comparison to some competitors like the Renault R5, there I see that the R5 steering wheel is a little bit softer, I have to say. This one is the vehicle also with a panoramic roof. At the moment, there's still wrap underneath. So you cannot see through, but you can see you will have this shade as well that also brings down the noise volume a little bit and also is a good shade then against the sun. But you can also start with like just fixed roof for this vehicle. And here with 189 6x2, there's still some headroom left. We will have physical dials here for the climate unit, like some switches to adjust the temperature easily while looking straight to the outside, and they can easily adjust the climate unit. So you will have a big touchscreen, yes, but you don't have to do everything in the touchscreen. The physical dials make its return to Volkswagen here. And also here the switch gear, for example, easy like from the ID.7, like forward, reverse and so on. So you can easily also put in the gears. And I will also have real dials, physical buttons at the steering wheel. Now to the rear seats. It is also possible here for 5 persons. With the middle seat, but of course the space is limited considering the exterior length. And when I'm driving as a tall adult, you can see, there's not much space left here in the rear. It's only like a 4-meter car. And headroom, you see that the glass roof is not carried out fully to the rear, but then it raises here again so that I can still sit here as a tall adult. So it's maybe not the best for tall adults, but theoretically it is possible when you put your legs right here and there. You have 2 USB-C chargers in the lower part, by the way, for the rear passengers. That's also good. And you have like a flat floor there. Now we can take an exclusive look at the trunk or the boot of the new ID.Polo, which is at 435 liters. Quite astonishing for a car of that size. And usually you would see my cabin trolley right here, but in this case, look at that. It's hidden underneath and it completely fits in there. Look at that. And this is also a thing that has remained from the original concept vehicle. Look at that. Here I can put this one upward and there's so much space. You can even put 2 water boxes next to each other. That's a cool effect. You can also remove that completely if you like, that thing here. Other than that, you have this traditional cover where the cabin trolley also fits underneath. Let's measure something. So we're here at about 1 meter or 40 inches in width. And then the normal length is about 26 inches or 65 centimeters. And then we have to remove this cover here to fold the seats or go around alternatively like this. And then we can fold the seats 2/3, 1/3 split. There we go. And we have a total length of
1 meter 35 or 53 inches. And the normal height here is 26 inches, 66 centimeters. However, if we then do this lower compartment again, like this, then maybe we can even transport plants or something, because here we are now at 44 inches or 1 meter 12. Let's start driving the new Polo, the ID.Polo, and I want to start here with the situation with a U-turn, so to speak, because here, when I turn it all the way in, for a front-wheel driven vehicle, the wheels actually turn in pretty much, and that gives you a very good turning circle actually. And then I also want to start with some slow driving with some bumpy roads and everything. We have 19-inch wheels here, but I still want to find out how comfortable it is still then. If you want to rule the comfort a little bit, of course, the most comfortable setting would be 17-inch wheels. But driving this new car is not only about the smoothest roads, but also maybe some destroyed roads. And here we have this parking lot where we have some bumps in the road and so on, and that really feels actually pretty smooth, although we have the 19-inch wheels mounted. So I would have expected something bumpier here now. And we talked about the torsion beam in the rear, which has this advantage of the large, very deep trunk, but then again disadvantage that, you know, the multi-link rear axles are usually bringing more comfort. So I'm looking forward to even more if we will still have a good driving and comfort, although we have the torsion beam in the rear. And yeah, it's actually funny to start this driving then here with some gravel road, and feels really nice and really agile. So almost feel like in the rally racing episodes here, also doing some right and left. Steering is very light in the comfort setting, but has no dead zone area or something like that. You can also change the driving modes. You can do it here on the touchscreen. In the sport mode, for example, you would have a more spontaneous throttle input. So, you know, there's just more coming very easily. And also the steering is a little bit heavier. I would maybe wish for a little bit more resistance, even in the sport mode. This is a software application, so they can still change it until the final vehicle. Yeah, so that would be, I mean, as I said, there's no dead zone area. You definitely get a reaction. Oh, there's some small birds here I need to watch out for. Yeah, definitely a little bit more resistance in the sport mode, but for my personal taste, I would like a little bit more resistance even here in the sport mode. Then again, for example, Leah rather prefers it, for example, when there's more, you know, like a very light steering. But indeed, it feels a little bit like rally racing here, starting with some off-roads. That's very cool to test it. And the front-wheel drive, we need this typical EV feeling that you hit the throttle and you directly get something out of it. That's pretty cool. Here, the bumpy road is actually no problem. You do feel it is, you know, not super soft, rather a sporty setup, but it's not getting uncomfortable from the seat. And the seating position itself, told you that in the interior, it is a very comfortable seating position also for tall adults, and you don't always actually have that. Turning indicators here, classic historic column. Now we're in this tunnel. It's interesting, there's so much sand here actually. And now we switch to the road, and also the first roundabout is approaching. And here now on the brakes, with the brake blending, most of the time, of course, you will use recuperation and you won't use the friction brakes at all. Now, here we go. There's also good acceleration because it's not too heavy. We are at about 1,600 kilograms and now accelerating out here. As you see here, although I was accelerating pretty hard, I can still control the vehicle very well. So I have, it's not like that something is guiding me or something like that. So there we go. And now we go to the motorway, can drive a little bit quicker. Also get the first acceleration in. I not allowed to show you the instruments, but I can tell you how we accelerate. So now we're doing some 50 to 80. And let's go. That's it. So that was 50 to 80, very easily done. Now we exit off the motorway. Oh, I already feel this is a lot of fun to drive. So very neutral setup of the car. The car is not moving much. So also when, you know, like when I try to force it a little bit, it's not shaking up and so on. The suspension, I always say a suspension is also good when you don't feel much of it. What do I mean by that? So you don't feel the car is shaking, but at the same time you also don't feel that it's stiff. So that's what I mean by when you don't feel that the car has a suspension, is actually a good suspension, you know what I mean? So that's actually pretty cool. And yeah, to me, cool thing is really when you accelerate out of the corner, because yes, they move to the front wheel based platform now. I'm personally more a fan of a rear wheel platform like they have here for the ID.3, ID.4 and so on. And there would also be a rear wheel driven platform. It would have been possible here. You know, it was an intentional decision to go for a front wheel based platform. I heard internally because traditionally Volkswagen was also, yeah, there were a lot of fans of front wheel based platforms. I mean, there's pro and con for both concepts. Wow, it really feels very agile. So yeah, although I'm a fan of rear wheel based platforms, this is a lot of fun to drive, and you just get the spontaneous instant drive from this electric drivetrain. Here the 211 horsepower, and you somehow always want to accelerate and turn the car in some corner. This is really amazing. And on the interior, at least what we could show you here today, especially comparing to the Renault R5, the R5 in some respects, for example with the softer steering wheel and so on, was also pretty nice. They have some like very likable solutions, but I really gotta say that in driving this one here is something very special. You immediately get like the feeling that you are connected to the vehicle, and it's so much fun to drive it. So actually I'm thinking about always some like winding corners, maybe in the mountains and so on. This will be so much fun with this vehicle. Yes, it is heavier than the combustion engine Polo, definitely. However, you get a low center of gravity, and you of course have this instant acceleration from this electric powertrain, and that really helps to make the car more agile. Also nice feeling really for the brake, although most of the time it will only be recuperation. And I could show you that on the concept vehicle earlier. You can also get these retro gauges, these retro instruments. We've shown that to you when it was still called ID.2, and they are also, you know, making up for this very fun feeling here. There we go. Also have a blind spot monitor, by the way, for safety. And now some agile driving. This will be a lot of fun, and yeah, I'm really astonished. It is not a light car overall if you consider then the comparison to combustion engine models. However, the low center of gravity helps, and also the suspension setup. It is comfortable, although we do have the 19-inch wheels. At the same time, I'm driving here astonishingly quick. So sometimes I really have to remind myself, like, wait a minute, what is it on the speedometer? And like, it doesn't feel like that, you know? So I'm driving actually pretty quicker than I think, but it doesn't feel quick, you know, in a way. That's really, yeah, really astonishing. So you can really push it into the corners. I'm also in the sport mode, or I can accelerate out, and the steering wheel does always what I want to do with the vehicle. It's crazy. It's almost feeling like racing, really like on the racetrack, and it's so stable. It's so quick here on the road. This is really amazing. So they said, do you have a driving experience of a Volkswagen Golf? I would want to say it drives better than the Golf. Also here, hard on the brakes. You have such a great feeling for the vehicle. It almost feels like driving a car in a simulator. This is really something. I really have to say, in driving, this one really convinces. It's so easy to drive. It almost feels like you could be a racer and could easily score some hot laps here without having much experience. And it also contributes to safety, because this car really feels safe to drive. You know exactly what you're doing with the steering, with the brakes, with the throttle, and I'm driving extremely precise. And I said initially also, it really feels a little bit like rally driving, because the car is so small, and that enhances the feeling that you say, hey, I know exactly where I put this vehicle. Is almost like I can tune like some centimeters on the road, where I say I want to be exactly there in the corner. I can drive at the very outside of the corner, because I might expect some oncoming vehicles and so on, and I still can't get over the fact how fast we are driving here. This is probably, I shouldn't be allowed to show what I'm seeing in the instruments here. So in this case, it's maybe good that I can't film the cockpit here today, not allowed yet. This is really wow. Yeah, it's almost strange, you know, how fast the car is here in these corners, and how easily you can really hammer it through the corners. So let's see here, we do a short overtaking maneuver. Wow, and so controllable at the same time. So I'm in full control of the vehicle. This is really amazing. So, I mean, I did expect the car to drive well, yeah, but I didn't expect it to drive that well. And I do have a lot of fun, although it is an electric vehicle and although you have like the heavy battery, because my experience is, I'm a fan of electric vehicles in general because, they're silent, they also have like modern interiors and they drive very smooth and everything. And we'll soon probably also at some point switch to an electric vehicle, for a private car. But when you do like racing or really agile driving, they were always too heavy. But here you've kind of nothing from it. With the BMW iX3 recently, we also felt it because of the really great suspension in the large SUV segment. And this one, whereas the BMW iX3 really sets the tone there in the large EV SUV segment, this one here in driving really sets the tone as for small EVs. And I could do this all day. And I mean, I can't say that for many other electric vehicles. This is just insane. I really can't get over it, how good it is in driving. That is really something. And I'm not sure how long I should make this driving part because I feel I could do 1 hour of talking and driving with this car. And I'm looking so much forward to that. I can at some point also show you the final perspective out of the front. Wow. I'm really amazed by driving this one here, how safe and how sporty and how smooth and quick everything goes. And we have to talk about recuperation. So the standard mode is the D-Auto, so to speak. This is the adaptive recuperation. And the advantage of that is that, for example, here when there's no car in front of me and I lift my foot off the accelerator pedal, there's just rolling. And when there would be like a car in front of me, almost like with an adaptive cruise control, then you have deceleration. That's the advantage that it's adaptive. The disadvantage is that the car never does the same thing in a way, So I like that the car is more predictable. You can also deactivate that function then in the infotainment system. It's not sure yet if they will make it last mode or not possible. And the other alternative would be the B mode. So this directly, I realized that directly. Really strong recuperation. So that would be more like one pedal driving. So we can also test it here in the roundabout. So I just lift my foot off the throttle. There we go. And then we have really, really strong deceleration. And let's see if we can also come to a full stop when we can do that. Let's see. I'll prove that to you later. But here definitely the very, very strong recuperation in the B mode. So you will have different modes possible, whatever you prefer. So then there's one more thing, B mode and recuperation to 0. So that's then, full one pedal driving if you want. And by the way, the more I drive, I mean, like the performance and how it handles, really, again, astonishing. However, with the weight, yes, in the dynamic sense, you don't feel it, but how your stomach feels when you do that too long, then you still feel it. Then a lighter combustion engine car would still feel easier on your body.
What's still missing? VMAX top speed, 175 kilometers an hour, 110 miles per hour. They are thinking of that the GTI will get a little bit higher top speed then, and the GTI will also get an electronic front differential lock that will be also interesting in driving. Now to the pricing. The small battery, however not so many will go for that one, starts just right below 25,000 euros. The car as it stands here right now, big battery and 211 horsepower, is about 35,000 euros, and the GTI will probably be like 38,000 euros. However, most customers will choose it as a leasing vehicle, so the top, the list price won't play such a role then in this case. It will be rather about the leasing price, and VW really wants to make it affordable to a wider target group. Let's see if that's going to work. The R5, as I said, is one of the big competitors. And there's always, of course, the big discussion between these kind of batteries. You cannot go on a long holiday trip with it. That's the downside. On the other hand, most daily trips are less than 30 kilometers. 90% of all trips are less than 30 kilometers. And then they say, maybe you don't need that big battery. However, at this point, you could not offer a bigger battery for a reasonable price and also could not house it in such a small car. So small electric vehicles will still remain somewhat here with these rather small batteries. But as I said, for most use cases then it will be enough. Still, of course, there's the thought of, can it be like a second car only, or can it also be like a first sole only vehicle? Looking forward to have the discussion with you then also here in the comments. And of course, what do you think about like exterior impressions, interior, and also the technical facts we told you so far? And the drive, of course, was super interesting. And we will keep you updated soon with the final reveal on the interior, and then later on with the whole final vehicle, exterior and so on. And you should check out the competitor of the Renault R5 and also the ID. Cross, the SUV version of this.